Hello there, this is Fabiola Martinez, and I am going to talk today a little bit about the new addition to our Janome software. And the part that I'm talking about is our new AcuStitch program. So there has been some discussion in our Janome 15,000 Facebook group about this AcuStitch program and some questions, and so hopefully I will be able to answer those for you in a way that makes you a little bit excited to purchase this program. So the idea behind AcuStitch is not an entirely new idea. So what I have done is I have opened up my Horizon Link suite, and I'm here on the start page, and I'm going to open up the embroidery link tool. All right, so when embroidery link tool is open and we are here in our editing embroidery designs, this is where you're going to be finding the original version of this AcuStitch capability. But I also want to make mention that you can also find it when you're in the layout mode. But you do not want to create your shapes that you are going to be able to use with these decorative stitches in the layout mode, because I want to remind you, I spoke about this when I did the little video about Horizon Link Suite, and I talked about layout mode. Layout mode only preserves pictures of the embroidery. It does not preserve the actual embroidery design. So if you were to open up the layout mode, I'm going to just click on it and just show you that on the home screen you can use this section I'm going to be explaining to you in a little bit, this convert STX file. But again, you do not want to do this here in the layout mode because it's not going to actually give you a true embroidery design. It is only going to give you a picture. So back in editing embroidery designs, I'm just going to open this up, and what will open up, you are familiar with this I'm sure, is our hoop that has been pre-selected, and this is the square 23 hoop for the 15,000 machine. When we're in our home tab, down on the very end, and I just showed this to you briefly in the layout mode, is this convert STX file capability. When we select this, it turns yellow, which shows that it is an active function now. And I can click on this and you're going to be able to see that I can create either a line or a circle using this function. So I'm going to choose circle, and a window is going to open up, and this window is going to be opening up a pathway to the last place that I was at the last time I used this function in embroidery link tool. All right, so when you open yours up, yours may not look exactly like mine, because if you've never used this convert STX file, you are going to be in a slightly different pathway than where I am currently at. I am in this created stitches folder that I have created on my own embroidery or my own computer. But if I were to back all the way out, you would see that that pathway actually leads me all the way back to my Janome 12,000 machine. This is where I originally began to use Stitch Composer program, and so many of my decorative stitches that I have created in Stitch Composer are in this folder. So I am just quickly going to come back to the folder where I was at, which was called Stitches, and I'm going to pick one of the stitches that I created in my Horizon Link Suite Stitch Composer program. Now, .stx means a stitch composed file. That is the file name. Just like in embroidery, we have JEF files and DST files and so on and so forth. When we create a file in Stitch Composer, that file is an STX format. So if I were to pick one of my stitches, and I'm just going to pick this one here. It doesn't even really matter because I'm just going to demonstrate this to you real quickly. This is the preview window, which shows me a very vague idea of what this stitch looks like. And I open it. This little window becomes alive. And what will happen here is that I can choose, remember I'm making a circle, it says so right here on this window right here, and I will choose what is the radius, that is the distance across my circle that I want this circle to be. And I'm going to just choose a random number of 50, for example. And there you see that my decorative stitch has created a somewhat funny shaped circle with this decorative stitch. I can choose the baseline of this. If it's center baseline, that means centered in this stitch pattern would be where that design is going to actually be measured from. I can choose it to be left or to the right. The other thing that I can do here is I can adjust the pattern width and the pattern length in order to try to close up this gap a little bit, so that my circle has more of a continuous look to it. And there's only so much adjustment. This might not turn out to be a very good pattern to try to do this with. But at any rate, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this. I just wanted to give you a brief look at how this is not a brand new function. This is something that we were able to do in the Horizon Link Suite program. So once we have created our circle, and as I said before, this was not a very good stitch example, unfortunately, to show you a complete circle, but I'm going to convert this. It has dropped it over into my embroidery screen. I can now close this one. And I can use this. What has happened is that a stitch composed file is normally a decorative stitch that can be used on the sewing side of our embroidery machine, our sewing and embroidery machine. It is not an embroidery design as such, but when we use it here in this convert STX file capability, it has converted that stitch file, which is normally a decorative stitch used on the sewing side of the machine. It has converted it into an embroidery file. And so that is what this converting STX file is all about. Okay, so I am now going to minimize this screen, and I'm going to activate my AcuStitch program. Here it is. Briefly, you're going to notice that the Home tab on this program is a little bit different than what the Home tab was like on our embroidery link tool, but it has some of the same functions available here. So what Janome has given us in this updated program that you can add onto your Janome machine is an improved version, so to speak, of that program. So here again, we can choose our hoop size. This is the little bar in which we can choose what size or what shape we want to create a stitch file and convert it into an embroidery design. Here we are able to go ahead and open regular embroidery designs so that we could do a layout of sorts in this hooping, and we could use some regular embroidery designs. Let's just say, for example, that I'm going to pick I'm just going to go really quickly here, and maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll just find a little animal or something that, I hope I've got something in a GIF format that I'm going to be able to look at real quickly. Yeah, there's a cute little dog. Okay, so that's just to show you that I can use this program to also use it just for regular embroidery designs. But here I've opened up this cute little free dog that I got from somewhere, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to embellish that shape with something from my AcuStitch capability. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to select a square shape. Now I know this is going to excite some people because back in the old embroidery link convert STX file, we were only able to do lines and circles. And I was able to very successfully create frames using that line tool. I would just create a line and then I would duplicate it several times in order to make a frame around the embroidery object that I was working on. But here we're going to find that the AcuStitch program does a very beautiful job of creating that frame for us. So I'm going to select my square shape. And again, this little window is going to look familiar to you because it is the same kind of window that opened up when I was over in the embroidery link tool convert STX file section. The last time I opened this to demonstrate it to some students, I was actually in the decorative stitch folder. If I follow this pathway up a little bit, I'm just going to show you where that decorative stitch folder is actually at. And it's in the document folder of our computer in our C drive under the new heading of AcuStitch. Okay, so if I were to double click on that, I'm going to be able to open up decorative stitch folder. The other thing I'm going to be able to do here is in this decorative stitch folder, you will also find that there's going to be a lot more stitches available that Janome has given us access to than what we previously had them give us in our Stitch Composer program and also in that embroidery link convert STX folder. So I'm just going to come down here somewhere and I'm going to pick at random, I don't know what I'm getting. Okay, this stitch here, beautiful little decorative stitch. This is the preview of what it looks like. This is the size that it is created at. And I'm going to open it. You can see when my screen opens up that unfortunately I cannot adjust the size of this screen, and I wish that that was something that they had given us the capability of doing, was actually making this entire little screen a little bit bigger. But we cannot, but we can zoom in and we can also zoom out so we can get a better feel for what this design is going to look like. So based on its original size, which was a 9mm wide stitch, I'm going to be able to select the advanced setting, and I'm going to be able to adjust how wide I want my stitches to be and how long I want them to be. And again, I'm going to be able to make them up to like 120% bigger. And I will also be able to make them up to 120% wider. The spacing size is right here, and the thing that I want to do, this length of this stitch is a 30mm, and that's the measurement from this point to that point. I think I'm going to try to make myself a square that is about, I think I'm going to try for 200mm. Zoom out so we can see this design. There it is, okay? I'm going to convert this into an embroidery design, close my window, and there I've got this snazzy little decorative stitch frame around my little puppy. All right, I'm going to zoom in using my View tab and my Zoom In function, and just click and click and click, zooming in. Because what I want to do is I want to show you what a beautiful job this program does of making a nice corner. This is the same thing that on our embroidery machines, if you were to use the tapering stitch function that we have as one of the options in our decorative stitch mode on the sewing side of our machine, we can use some of our decorative stitches to create these nicely tapered points for frames and so those kinds of things. And this little program is just automatically doing it for us now that we have created this square shape. Isn't that really pretty? I'm going to select the shape and I'm going to just reduce it in size just a little bit. Get it just a little bit closer to my little puppy dog. If I wanted to, I could move this up in the sequence. I think I can do that. There we go. I can change the color of it over in the Edit tab. I can just choose just any color that I might want to change that into, just to add a little variety to what it looks like on my screen right here. And the other thing that I just want to mention briefly before I finish this little section is that these are decorative stitches that would normally be stitched out on the sewing side of our machine, but now they have been converted into an actual embroidery design to be stitched in an embroidery field. So that's really a neat feature that we are now able to do a little bit easier than what we could do before, especially for those of you that do not have a digitizing program in which you could create some of these decorative stitches there. It's pretty neat. I'm going to come back to the Home tab and I'm going to expand this menu, and I'm going to choose one of these shapes. This one's called the Snow Crystal. I'm going to open it up and I'm going to choose the same stitch that I just used, and it was decorative stitch number 27. Going to open it, and there's my little snow crystal. Isn't that pretty? I'm going to, I think I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. I'm going to make it a crystal that's 40mm wide. So it expanded just a little bit. I'm going to convert it into an embroidery. Close the window, and there it is. Kind of big. I'll shrink it down a little bit just by using my arrows there. But you see what a beautiful job, once again, this program has done with converting a decorative stitch into this pretty snowflake shape. Zooming into the center of it right here in the middle. Again, I just want to make it real obvious to you what a beautiful job it does with tapering these stitches into the center, creating this beautiful little embroidery design. Simple, but very lovely. And you know, maybe this little puppy dog is not the best example of how you might be able to use these motifs and these frames combined together with regular embroidery, but it just gives a little picture of just one of the new capabilities that we now have available to us using our AcuStitch program. So I think this is going to be lots of fun. Now, I live in the United States, and here I was able to purchase my program for $30 US dollars. So I'm assuming hopefully that wherever you're at in the world, whatever the equivalent to that might be, is about what you will pay for this AcuStitch program. And I think it'll probably be anywhere between about 30 and 40 US dollars. I think it's well worth it because, like I said before, you're going to be able to have the capability of using this program along with all the other functions available in Horizon Link Embroidery Link tool, bringing in designs to combine together, adding in some monogramming, letters and motifs and things like that, along with all of these beautiful shapes using these decorative stitches. Once again, these stitches were built in from the Janome embroidery machine, sewing machine, but you will also be able to use the stitches that you compose yourself, the .stx stitches that you compose yourself in Stitch Composer program. So I hope you get the program. It's great, and I highly recommend it, and thank you for watching this little video.